I've done a few shoots with the Nikon ZR now, and I want to give you some updated thoughts, some things that you should be aware of. But let's start with how the video looks. Now, I think the biggest reason that someone is going to be picking up the Nikon, I don't know which to call it, ZR is going to be to get their hands on the R3D video, the RAW video, this little, I want to say budget-friendly camera, because comparatively to the other RED cameras that are out there, it is budget-friendly. Yes, it's still about $2,200 US, but it can do a lot for that price. R3D video is very forgiving to shoot with. The color science is absolutely beautiful. It's extremely natural and rich, and you can just edit everything after the fact. You want to go in and change your ISO, change your exposure, your white balance. You can do all that. Now, file sizes weren't as terrible as I initially thought they were going to be. 1 minute in R3D, and there's only one way you can shoot. There's no other compression or anything like that. It's just that one way, and it's about 12 gigs for 1 minute of video. I knew going into this, picking up this camera, that I was going to have to upgrade all of my storage, so I ended up getting a ProGrade 8TB SSD, which they kindly sent through. Thank you, ProGrade. Been working with ProGrade for many years. I already have the CF Type B cards that this doesn't have in it right now. CF Type B cards that this takes. I have 2 of the 1TB ones, which are also from ProGrade. Zero complaints about ProGrade cards. I've been using their SD cards for very, very many years. I've got tons of them. If you're looking at picking up new cards, ProGrade is probably what I'd recommend. But going back to the footage, it's a lot of fun to play with because you do have so much flexibility, and it just means you don't really have to worry. As long as you get your focus nailed, you're fine. So I talked about this a little bit on Instagram and made a reel about editing the RED R3D footage for the first time, and there's a lot of people that are kind of rude, and they're like, tell me you haven't ever edited RAW video without telling me you haven't edited RAW video before. And a lot of people have been like, this isn't anything new, why are you acting like it is? It's new for me, and it's new for a lot of other people as well. So relax, calm down, and be nicer. People are allowed to learn things. Just because you know things doesn't mean everyone else does. Back to the video. Now, when it comes to the workflow process of editing this R3D, that was all new to me. I've done a little bit of work with RAW video before, but nothing huge. I had to spend some time, invest time in learning how to actually work with this properly, and watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and there seems to be 2 methods, which I'll run you through right now. So inside here, you'll see we've got a bunch of R3D footage. There's some MP4 as well. That's just proxy versions of the MP4. We're not gonna be working with that. I'm just gonna show you the 2 versions that I have kind of learnt that you can expose this R3D footage. And I'm learning this all too, so I may make some mistakes and do some things wrong, but I'm trying to learn everything. So the first version, the simplest, is to click on the footage that you want to edit, and you want to go to your Camera Raw tab. Now, you'll probably be in here when you load up Resolve to color grade, but Camera Raw is over here. And change the decode using to clip. The color science needs to be IPP2. The color space, this is where the divide between the 2 methods kind of comes into play, and this is the first method, is to go Rec 709, Gamma Curve, BT 1886. And you can see there that it just kind of changes it to a Rec 709 image for you. The nice thing with doing it this way is that it gives you options to control all of this information right here. So the output tone map and the highlight roll-off as well. And yes, the ISO. You can in fact change the ISO after the fact. That's one of the big things of shooting R3D. I can go in and it still looks very natural, as if I actually shot it at ISO 400. I could go to ISO 2000 if I wanted to as well there. The nice thing here though is the highlight roll-off. So right now you see it set to soft. Look at the sky right here. I can change it to very soft and you get some more information back in there. You can also change the tone map if you want a bit more contrasty there. We can bring down the exposure. Change your color temperature because you have full control over the white balance. You can change your tint. You can do everything in there. And that's one method of doing it. Now, the argument for not doing it this way is as soon as you work in the color space for X709, you're losing information, and this isn't the right gamma curve here to be working within. So the other method is, which gets you more information to work with, is, we'll go to this clip here, is to create some nodes. So we're going to create 3. But first, you do need to do some stuff down here in the camera raw as well. You want to go to Clip, Color Science IPP2 again. Leave the color space to red, wide, gamut, RGB. DaVinci detects that and it'll just set it for you. Gamma curve needs to be log 3G10. Leave it at that. You'll see here you don't have control over your output tone map and your highlight roll off now. You still have control over everything else in here if you wanted to. But the idea here is that you're going to be doing this via a node instead, via your HDR tools. There's different methods to do it, but by doing it this way, you also need to do a color space transform in and out. So the color space transform in, which we'll work on first, your input color space needs to be red, wide, gamut, RGB. Your input gamma needs to be red log 3G10 because that's color space there, input color space, and then gamma curve, input gamma, log 3G10, and then your output color space. What we're going to work in within Resolve here is DaVinci wide gamut, and then DaVinci intermediate. So that's our color space in. If you want to do all of your adjustments, if you want anything in here, you just add more nodes and you do that all inside here. But your color space out needs to be DaVinci wide gamut because we're working in that. And then your input gamma needs to be DaVinci intermediate because that's your output gamma there. So we're going out from this into this. And then your output color space is going to be, for me, Rec 709, and I'm on a Mac with Apple Display, Rec 709A. I think there's something new that happened with this recently, but I got to look into it more. And basically that is getting you a Rec 709 conversion, and we can do all our adjustments inside here. If we got our HDR tools, we can play about with everything, and you can control your highlights here and bring that back down. You see there I have information control there, and it brings it all back. So this is just a different way of doing it, but those are the 2 methods that I have come up with. I haven't come up with them, that I've investigated and figured out so far. The grip on this camera is going to be a problem for you if you don't rig it up in some way. If you don't put a cage on it or a grip on it, it's going to feel like you're going to drop it out of your hand. It doesn't have a nice grip without the grip that I have on here right now. So I'd highly recommend that you do pick up something. There's such a limited amount of options out there right now. I think SmallRig actually is the only company that actually has one to market, even though it's severely back ordered. I don't know how I got so lucky with this one. Ordered it from Amazon, in case you're wondering, Amazon Canada. I know Condor Blue does have one coming as well. The key is with the cage, you're going to want to make sure that it has some form of a grip on there. I'm not sure if all the cages coming out will have that, but you are going to need something grippy. This one from SmallRig, I don't love it, if I'm honest. I am heavily invested into using things that attach with NATO rails. And this cage, and I guess it's a SmallRig thing now, they just don't do it anymore. They don't put NATO rails on any of their cages, or at least the ones I could see. And it's really annoying because then I have to attach my own NATO rails to this, and it makes everything bigger than it needs to be. It makes things higher up than they need to be, and it's really frustrating actually. Now this one does have the HDMI clamp on here, but, and well, you can kind of see what I've got going on right here. It's not what I like to do. I like to make clean cages and clean setups when I'm rigging things out. The problem with this one here, you can't attach right-angled HDMI cables. So this is a micro HDMI, which is why you need to use the clamp. But this, because of the design here, you can't put a, I'll put it in as far as it will go. You can't put a micro HDMI cable in. That's as far as it will go because of this bit on the bottom just here, which is really frustrating. This bit just here stops the cable from going in. So you can't use right angled cables, which I typically like to do because then the cable comes up and not out as much, but that doesn't work. So you end up having to use one of these little micro HDMI adapters, which goes in there nicely, and then you can lock that in place like so. But then you got this dangly thing here, which is just, not nice to look at, and it's a pain because there's nowhere for this to go. Like, I could put a Mondo tie just there, I guess, but I don't like having this out there like that. I don't want to have to plug in another HDMI cable to that. I want to use the one, so I don't love this cage. I also realized once I had this all rigged up and ready to go, shooting with a monitor because the camera doesn't have anamorphic D-squeeze in it, and I wanted to shoot with my Blazer lenses. I don't like shooting with it all big rigged up like I had it. The whole purpose of this big screen on here is so that you can just really use it very minimally and have a very minimal small setup and not have to have anything else attached to it. So the need for having anamorphic D-squeeze in the menus, in the firmware, is huge for me right now, and I really do hope that you add it, Nikon. You listen to everybody out there, because a lot of people are going to be saying the same thing. It's a cinema camera, it doesn't have anamorphic D-squeeze, sort it out. That said, the screen is just an absolute joy to shoot with. It is such a nice experience. All cameras out there now are good in some way, shape or form. Like, everything in the past, even 5 years now, is very, very good. So experience is starting to become such a huge deal for people. If you have a camera that gives you an enjoyable experience when you're shooting with it, you want to shoot with it more, and that's exactly what this screen does. It makes going back to my Sonys very hard. I'm not going to swap. Like, the Sony cameras are just incredibly reliable and very useful for doing this kind of thing. But the big screen on here is so nice, it's so enjoyable to use. It's so big, you can focus without having to use focus peaking, and the whole exposure tool thing is obviously a big problem with this as well, because it doesn't have a good set of tools inside it. But I will say the screen is big enough that you're able to focus without having to use those tools. At least I can. And you can zoom in to your, let's turn it on actually so you can see. When you're using, if you use this on the front here, the zoom rocker, you can actually zoom in to manually focus, and it's really nice. Look how far you can go there. So you can manually focus and you can quickly zoom back out again. You can actually zoom in and you can tap the top there to go back as well. That's a menu button that you have to set up. So this is really nice to zoom in and manually focus with if you choose to do so with manual focus lenses. The Megadap adapter, we're jumping all over the place here. I've got a bunch of notes to cover, but we're going all over the place. The Megadap adapter works really, really well with Sony glass. Very happy with it. If you're thinking about picking that up to use your Sony glass with this natively, works great. That being said, I did play about a lot with the Nikon Nikkor 40mm f2. Really like this lens because it's so small, compact, but it's actually very cheap for a lens that has the image quality and character that this has. This isn't a perfect lens by any means. It has a good look to it, and a lot of the video shot at the beginning of this video of Noah, my son, when we're out in the field there, was actually shot with this lens. Using this on the ZR in autofocus and getting R3D is very nice. It's just point the camera, frame up how I want it to look, and let the autofocus do its thing. So it works really, really well if you're thinking about using Nikon or Sony autofocus lenses with this. For the next section, a little bit of context. I've had this camera now over a year. Really love this for shooting stills. It did shoot video, but I never really dabbled in it. The ZR has the same menu system, and it is a complete mess. This is a video focused camera, and it has the same menu system as a stills camera. And things are just not in the right spot. Things aren't grouped together properly. If you change the custom settings, what says custom settings in the menu for your buttons, and then you save it and you go to use it and you realize it didn't actually change anything because the custom settings for your buttons aren't changed there for video. They're changed in a completely different sub video menu. It's all over the place. It's not good. Nikon, you need to have a dedicated set of menus for this camera, because the photo and video sections just, they're all over the place. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not the only person to say this. There's a lot of people that feel the same way as well. Maybe if you've shot with Nikon for a very long time as a hybrid shooter, both photo and video, you get used to it, but as it stands right now, it's not great. Battery life for this is actually way better than I expected. I expected to burn through batteries, and very impressed with the battery performance on it. I actually went out and bought 3 extra batteries and a dummy battery as well, and that's actually a good point to talk about. I'm also being lit by daylight, so I expect to see a substantial amount of exposure changes throughout this video, but it is what it is. I picked up this little guy here, Lano. It's a 2 battery charger, and it gives you the percentage of when everything's charged. So I picked up that. It came with 2 batteries as well. And then I also got a newer dummy battery, D-tap dummy battery. But the issue with this, so on the bottom just there is no way, from what I can tell here, to take off the battery door. So if you want to use a dummy battery, normally there's 2 methods for this. There's a little cutout trap door that allows you to kind of pop that out and then feed the cable through that, or you can take the door off. I don't like to take the door off, generally speaking, because then that opens up this compartment here for all kinds of things to get in there. So normally I go with a little cutout. You can pop the cable through and you can use everything, it's all gravy. The problem is, it doesn't come off and there is no trap door. So you're left with this cable just kind of hanging out here, and what I ended up having to do was gaff tape it closed so it doesn't just flap about when you're using it. So you can't really use a dummy battery with this, if I'm honest. I probably will end up returning this. So you probably want to use USB-C power delivery to charge this if you need more power. SmallRig cage does have a lock on there for the power delivery as well. So you could use like a D-tap to USB-C from a V-mount battery, or USB-C to USB-C if you want to power from a portable battery or something, and that would work fine. If you want to use dummy battery, it's going to be a pain. You're going to have this door that flaps about, it doesn't close properly. It was not thought about very well. I think I maybe have some other stuff, but I haven't written it down yet. I'm enjoying this whole experience of learning something completely new and having to watch videos on how to do certain things. It's been a while since I did that. If you want to see more as I continue to learn, follow along, then subscribe down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.